Hello kids, I am Priyanka and I'm back again with my new chapter Oliver Asked for More. This is an extract from the novel Oliver Twist written by British novelist Charles Dickens 1812 to 70. It is a story of an orphan boy named Oliver. Orphan means who doesn't have parents named Oliver, who is brought to the children's home. Mr. Bubble walked on with long strides, little Oliver, firmly grasping his gold laced cuff, trotted beside him. Oliver had not been within the wall of the workshop a quarter of an hour, where Mr. Bubble informed him that the board had said he was to appear both in forthwith. Not having a very clearly defined notion of what a live board was, Oliver was rather astonished by this information as was not quite certain whether he ought to laugh or cry. He had no time to think about the matter. Mr. Bubble asked Oliver to follow him into a large white washroom where 8 to 10 fat gentlemen were sitting around a table. The top of the table, seated in an armchair rather higher than the rest, was a particular fat gentleman with a very round red face. "Bow to the board," said Bubble. Oliver brushed away 2 or 3 tears that were lingering in his eyes, and seeing no board but the table, bowed to that. "What's your name, boy?" said the gentleman in the high chair. Oliver was frightened at the sight of so many gentlemen, which made him terrible. The beadle gave him a tap on his back with his cane, which made him cry. "Boy," said the gentleman in the high chair, "listen to me. You know you are an orphan, I suppose." "What's that, sir?" inquired poor Oliver. The boy is a fool. I thought he was," said the gentleman in the white waistcoat. "Hush," said the gentleman who has spoken first. "You know you have got no father or mother, and that you were brought by the parish, weren't you?" "Yes, sir," replied Oliver, weeping bitterly. What are you crying for?" inquired the gentleman in the white waistcoat. "I hope you say your prayers every night," said your mother, gentleman, in a gruff voice, "and pray to the people who feed you and take care of you like a Christian." "Yes, sir," stammered the boy. "Well, you have come here to be educated and taught a useful trade," said the red faced gentleman in the high chair. "So you will begin to pick oakum tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock," added the surly one in the white waistcoat. Oliver bowed low, directed by the beadle, and was then hurried away to the large ward, where on the rough, hard bed he sobbed himself to sleep. Poor Oliver, as he lay sleeping, unconscious of everything around him, the board had taken a decision that would change the course of his life. The members of his board were very wise and philosophical men. As they turned their attention to the workhouse, they discovered that it was a regular place of public entertainment for the poorer classes. It was a place where they had breakfast, dinner, tea, supper all the year round and free. There is all play and no work. There was a really shocking state of affairs. They were of opinion that the poor should be given only two alternatives: either to starve quickly outside the warehouse or gradually inside the warehouse. With this view, they decided that the inmates of the warehouse would be issued 3 meals of thin gruel a day, with an onion twice a week. For the first 6 after Oliver Twist was moved in, the system was in full operation. As a result, during this period, the number of workshop imitates got smaller, and the imitate themselves shrank in size and became thinner. The room in which the boys were fed was a large stone hall with a big copper bowl at one end, out of which the master, dressed in an apron for the purpose, and assisted by 1 or 2 women, landed the gruel at meal time. On this festival composition. Each boy had one basin full and no more, except on occasion of great public rejoicing, when he had 2 ounces and a quarter of bread beside. The basin never wanted washing. The boy polished them in their spoon till they shone again. When they had performed their operations, they would sit starting at the copper bowl with such eager eyes as if they would have devoured the big bowl itself as everything in it. At the same time, they sucked their finger most carefully to catch up any stray splashes of gruel that might have stuck thereon. Boys have generally excellent appetite. Oliver Twist and his companion suffered the torture of slow starvation for 3 months. At last they got so voracious and wild with hunger that one boy, who was tall of his age and hadn't been used to that sort of thing, hinted darkly in his companions, and unless had another basin of gruel per day, he was afraid he might never some night happen to eat the boy who slept next to him, who happened to be a weakly youth of tender age. He had a wild, hungry eyes, and they believed them. A council had held, lot were cast as to who should walk up to the master after supper that evening and ask for more, and if it fell to Oliver Twist. The evening arrived. The boys took their places. The master in his cook uniform stationed himself at the copper. His assistant ranged themselves behind him. The gruel was served out. The gruel disappeared. The boy whispered to each and wrinkled at Oliver, while his next neighbor nudged him. Child at he was desperate with fingers and reckless with misery. He rose from the table and was advancing to the master, basin and spoon in hand, said, somewhat alarmed at his own courage, "Please, sir, I want some more." The master was a fat, healthy man, but he turned very pale. He gazed in Supperfield, astonished on small rebel for some second, and then clutched for support to the copper. The assistants were paralyzed with wonder, the boys with fear. "What?" said the master at length in a faint voice. "Please, sir," replied Oliver, "I want some more." The master aimed a blow of Oliver's head with a ladle and shook aloud for a beadle. The board was sitting in the Solomon meeting, where Mr. Bubble rushed into the room in great excitement, and addressing the gentleman in the high chair, and said, "Mr. Limkins, I beg your pardon. Sir Oliver Twist has asked for more." There was a great start. Horror was displayed on his countenance. "For more?" said Mr. Limkins. "Compose yourself, Bubble, and answer me distinctly. Do I understand that he asked for more after he had eaten the supper allotted to the board?" He said, "Sir," replied Bubble, "that boy will be hung till gentleman in the white waistcoat." "I don't know that boy will be hung." Nobody contradicted the perfect gentleman opinion. An excited discussion took place. Oliver was ordered into instant confinement, and a bill was next morning pasted on the outside of the gate, offering a reward for £5 to anybody who would take Oliver Twist off the hand of the parish. In other words, £5 and Oliver Twist were offered to any man or woman who wanted an appetence to any trade, business, or calling. And this story is written by Charles Dickens. Thank you.